Okay, this video, it might need a warning label. If someone quotes their spiritual father or spiritual mother more than they quote Jesus, something has gone seriously wrong. It's amazing the things that can go on in the church world. Robyn and we've seen so much over the last few decades of serving in the church. You know, when you walk in ministry long enough, you see both the beauty of God's people and you also see the brokenness that can sometimes exist among them. One important thing that I've learned is this. It's hard to know what you don't know. Many people only hear a portion of a story, someone's warped perception of the truth, their side of the situation. You know, from there, conclusions are formed and judgments are made against these. Years ago, let me tell you this story. A famous minister who was regarded as a spiritual father by some, he heard a partial account of something happening in our ministry, in our church. The minister involved was considered a spiritual son to him, so this father felt compelled to defend him. Without hearing the full story, he called me on the carpet. He strongly rebuked me, and he accused me of spiritual sins that were totally unsubstantiated. He was convinced that he was standing for what was right. Listen to this and never forget it. Loyalty can be honorable, but loyalty without true spiritual maturity and discernment can also be extremely dangerous because it can open up the door to spiritual deception. Sometimes people become so devoted to spiritual fathers or spiritual mothers that they fail in discerning rightly. Scripture gets quoted, words like, "Thus saith the Lord," get spoken, or "The Lord showed me this about them." But sometimes those words and revelations are not the Lord at all. Spirits of deception can quietly be at work behind the scenes. Years later, that famous minister, he came back and he apologized to me. He admitted that he had been completely wrong about me. I was thankful for the humility that it took him to do that. But the truth is, the damage had already been done. How quickly the church, and especially we ministers, we forget that our real enemy is not one another. Ephesians 6:12 says, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers of this darkness, against evil spiritual forces in the heavens." The church is meant to be a family. Yet the enemy works very subtly to divide the family from within. Jesus experienced this very thing during his earthly ministry. We do value true spiritual fathers and true spiritual mothers, and we don't make light of that. However, if someone or your pastor quotes a church leader more than they quote Jesus, something's wrong somewhere. No human voice, no matter how anointed, revered, or respected, should ever replace the voice of Jesus. More than you need to hear the voice of your pastor or a ministry leader or a spiritual mentor, you need to hear the voice of Jesus. This is the only true voice that really feeds you. He is the real shepherd that should be behind every pastor. And above your pastor's voice, you need to hear the voice of Jesus. And if you're not hearing the voice of Jesus behind your pastor's voice, should they really be your pastor? It matters.